should be a recipient of Marshall aid.
That's Jeremy Zettelmeyer. From 2014 to 2016, he held a senior rank in Germany's Ministry for Economic Affairs. Now he's at the International Monetary Fund.
But, as the politics changed after the war, and the Cold War became the most pressing issue, so containment of the Soviet Union, it was very quickly decided that Germany would get Marshall Plan aid, and so it played a big role in German post-war reconstruction.
Reconstruction that is in West Germany.
So it's well known that in the wake of the Second World War, Germany was occupied.
And that is the economist Daniel.
In Anglo-Saxon countries, I'd say Sturm, but in German, I'd say Sturm. So it's a difficult one.
Sturm grew up in Germany and now teaches at the London School of Economics. His specialty is called spatial economics.
Well, spatial economics is sort of an umbrella term for people who are interested in the world of space in economic activity. So that could be space across countries, as sort of studied in international trade. That could be space across regions, or the role of space within cities.
You can see where this is going, can't you? After the war, Germany was divided and occupied by the Allied powers. For a spatial economist who happens to be November 9th, 1989, the fall of Berlin.
Just a short while ago, astonishing news from East Germany.
In hours of East Germany's decision to let its people go by opening the border to the west, the city erupted in a frenzy of celebration.
Just serving in the army. I was still conscription at the time. I was a lorry driver, so I was sort of servicing the spatial economy at that point, transporting goods around for the German army. But I had no training in economics at that point.
But years later, Sturm, the economist, began to examine the economic data generated by the political divisions.
So one of the classic questions in spatial economics is the question of why do people, firms and workers, locate where they locate. And there's sort of two big competing kind of theories. One is there's something that's sort of fundamentally good about some locations, access to a river, nice weather.
Daniel Sturm and a colleague, Steve Redding, took advantage of this shock to the system.
So once that shock dissipates, do we see that everything gravitates back to the mission?
Now granted, a city like Berlin could tell all its big companies to come home. They had built buildings.
It was in fact also the biggest airport in Europe.
But during the post-war occupation, a lot of airplane traffic migrated to Frankfurt, in part because the U.S. military had its main purpose there.
And it took
Berlin recapture all that air traffic, or did Frankfurt retain its hold?
That's exactly what we find.
That is, Frankfurt retained its hold.
There's no evidence of the pattern of air travel gravitating back to its own pattern.
To this day, Frankfurt has the biggest airport in Germany.
Very unusual distribution of economic activities, or even Spain, where economic activity seems to be highly agglomerated in one or two leading centers. In contrast, in Germany, we have a number of...
Now, is economic decentralization necessarily a benefit? Cities like New York, London, Paris, and Tokyo might argue otherwise.
There's a lot of literature that documents that there returns to density, so bigger cities seem to be more productive. So from that perspective, it may be better to concentrate economic activity in a few
Population distribution across the country's cities.
The question is a tricky one, and one that arguably we have much less of a handle on in terms of understanding the full empirics and the importance of different effects. And also, if we split London into two cities and move one to the north of England and left one where it is right now, what exactly would be the implications of that for UK economic activity? It would be great if I could solve that question and provide you with a kind of precise empirical estimate, but it's something
Outside major cities, with voters who feel that cosmopolitan elites don't represent their economic interests.
If you look at the UK, one of the key kind of obsessions of UK politics is to try and redistribute economic activity away from London to other parts of the UK, which compared to London are lagging. Spatial inequality in Germany as well, but it's not as extreme with, let's say, Berlin being the vibrant place and everything else being a backwater.